Nintendo. For Sega, Sonic. I can't remember which ones. I remember Spinball was one of the ones we played. Sonic 1. I believe Sonic. I think all the Sonics we played all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
Very popular.
they never got
Sega.
old. They would never get old. You just keep going back and playing them. And then you brought up another good one. We spent hours playing NBA Jam all the time. We would challenge our friends, and we just spend hours. And then like eventually you'd figure out how to play it. Like you get the superpowers all souped up on them, and you'd be on fire and doing the slam dunks and all kinds of crazy stuff. And
NBA Live.
Yeah. And the announcer was always
95.
I'd always play the Bulls because back then I was a big Chicago Bulls fan. So I'd play Jordan Pippen.
Robin. That's
all
of those. The time period, for sure.
So that was kind of cool. And then Mortal Kombat. But for the Sega, it was Mortal Kombat 2. I didn't really care for Mortal Kombat 1. I have them somewhere. I have them for Sega, and I have them for Nintendo. I don't remember if I have them for Super Nintendo. I know I have them for Sega.
And the Sega Genesis,
I do have them for Super. So Mortal Kombat 2 was the first game I ever beat. I would spend the night at my friend's house, and we would just play Mortal Kombat 2 all night long.
So what was the difference between the first one and then going into the Sega Genesis? Was it the characters and how they looked and the fatalities?
Well, there's more characters in the second one than there was in the first one. But the first one is kind of cheesy. Like if you go back and revisit it, I don't think it holds up the same. Like when we were kids, playing that Mortal Kombat 1 was amazing. But then when Mortal Kombat 2 came out, that was phenomenal. That was the greatest thing that could ever happen was Mortal Kombat 2. And I remember we were able to figure out the fatalities by then because they had strategy guide books that were coming out. I got the strategy guide books too for all that, so I know all the fatality moves and all
characters.
That
was popular. Yeah, I remember.
But I remember, for whatever reason, I remember playing it more on the Sega Genesis than the Super Nintendo. Maybe just because that was what was available at a friend's house at the time. As I got older, I was able to play it on both consoles. Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super NES and the Sega Genesis. I was able to play it on both consoles. And then also with the Super Nintendo, we got into Mortal Kombat 3, Mortal Kombat 3 Trilogy, Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate, and what is it? There's other ones too I can't even think of. There's probably like 4 Mortal Kombat 3s that came out. I can't remember them all, but I have them all, so I'll have to play it sometime. And then
Sega Genesis was big.
Yes, Super Nintendo. It
Get was, over here.
Yeah,
Scorpion.
And then Toasty.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
can't forget that.
Yeah. Yep. Special.
Finish him.
Yeah.
And then Super Nintendo, Mortal Kombat 2, 3, Ultimate, Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country. I've only been able to beat that one time, but I've played it to the end and almost beaten it probably like 20 times. Because when you get to the end, I don't know if you've ever beaten this game before or not. When you get to the end, you kill him. The bad guy, I can't remember the boss's name. It's been so long since I played it. You kill him, right? But then the credits start to roll. Then all of a sudden he wakes back up and he kills you. So if you're not expecting that, you get wiped out, and then you got to start all over again to beat him. So you got to go through the whole first routine, go through the credits again, and then you got to be on your toes because as soon as he pops up, he's coming after you.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what you got to do, but you got to defeat him.
Didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And I've only been able to do that one time.
So Donkey Kong can do that. Diddy Kong, right? They're both together in that.
Yeah, and you can swap. You can swap.
Okay.
Back and forth.
I think you play it. That's
you
one
can
of the games.
Play either as Diddy or Donkey Kong, and that's what I liked about it because they kind of complemented each other in the gameplay, and in certain parts of the game you couldn't use Donkey Kong, but then you could use Diddy and vice versa. So it was cool how they were able to utilize that in the game. So you had to go through the game strategically in order to conquer, which is how a lot of the games are, anyways. But I just remember that being a part of it, and it was one of them games where you just died and died and died and died and died and died, and we'd end up going back. This is how what we did: is we'd go back, play the first board until we got 100 lives, because the first board you could spell out the word Kong and get a free life. You can get the balloons and get a free life. So that's what we did. because we knew whenever we were playing the game,
reminds me of Mario.
We would die at a certain point, but we'd have to go all the way back to the beginning and get all your balloons back so you can try to make another run to the boards to get through.
Survive.
But so yeah, and then Super Mario World. Obviously Super Mario World. And when that came out, that was like we played Mario 1. I didn't care for Mario 2. I did not like Super Mario 2 at all. I tried playing it a few times. I just could not get into Super Mario 2. It was just so weird and not like the first one. It was weird. Like I couldn't get into it, so I never got into it and didn't play it for too long. But then when Super Mario 3 came out, I was over at a friend's house. It was at a barbecue, and he just got it. He's one of them ones that he got the new game every time it came out. And he had a huge TV. I'm talking about the biggest TV you could ever possibly imagine in his living room. It probably weighed 500 million pounds. I have no idea. But I remember playing Mario, and Mario was like this tall on it. And we thought it was the coolest thing to sit there in front of it and play Mario 3 on this big, huge TV.
Wow.
And so that was my first experience with Mario 3, and I was hooked. But then we ended up playing, later on down the road, we got to play Super Mario World. And then Yoshi became a quick favorite of mine. Playing with Yoshi, using Yoshi throughout the game was awesome. So let's see. Have you ever beaten any games? Any of the old?
That's a technical question. So I'm thinking because again, a lot of games I remember. So on the spot, trying to think of ones because my parents didn't like to buy a game for me because I'd conquer it. So I'm trying to think what legitimately did I conquer. Because the first one that I can think of that I did, I actually did, but I didn't. This is why. So it was Prince of Persia, and I remember when there was the Game Genie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I got the code on accident. Went to the last board, and then I beat it.
Oh,
I don't know how that happened, but I did. Yeah, true story.
I mean,
just, I don't know
some games are like
wow.
To me, some games are impossible to beat without that.
Yep. But some of them it was just like I guess anyone, I can't say everybody, but it's thinking like Mario. Okay, went through Mario, got to that, and but it was about the high score, so I don't really think like I conquered it. It was just a game. You play it.
Yeah.
So for actually doing something, having to actually go through the whole thing, I think the first one that I can remember that I legitimately did, I think, was Knights of the Old Republic 2. The fun thing about that was it was the first. This is when again the whole role playing game, and I got near the end, and I didn't know I was at the end because I was stumped. I was about to give up on it, so I got a strategy booklet on it because I am stuck. I got to get through this. So I opened it up, and I was literally near. I'd say maybe less than an hour left of the game. So then I beat it, and nice. for whatever reason. So hey, sometimes you got to get input to get through something, but I did get it. It's not like I didn't put in the work for it. Well, that was so fun. That was a lot, and that was, I think a lot on games that are like that or ever since that game, because I thought it was so neat because you have the alternative endings. It's all based on what you do and the choices with the characters you're with. I remember one of the highlights that I had with that game was that there was another character that you can influence or however, and one of the things that you could have them become a Jedi, be a mentor, and I actually accomplished that, and I found out in the strategy guide that was one of the hardest things to do in the game. I'm like, hey, I did that. It's just because I wanted to. Most of the games when I play something that's going towards the light or the good character, the hero.
Oh yeah.
Not just the villain or the rebel or whatever. I've always done that, and then it just happened. So I lucked out on that, but that was just so fun. But for conquering, I'd say that would probably be the one that I put real intent in, regardless. The strategy book that was Knights of the Old Republic 2, Star Wars. That was fun. Yeah. There may be some before that I can't think of, but that's like legitimately what I did. That was fun. Because there's a lot of games that I put a lot of time in, but I never finished. Like say like Maniac Mansion, I played it, but then I got stuck. Didn't play it anymore. I went over to someone's house, we played it, and it's just if I got to play it or was just watching, sometimes went over. Didn't get a chance to play. It's like, hey, I got the new game, and you go over there to watch. And
go over to watch.
We don't share.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody shares, or you get the bad controller.
It's like and that was a big thing because like with these controls, like I was just like say with Nintendo, if you get a bad connection or you got to blow into the cartridge and it don't work, there's a lot of fundamental stuff that went with the success
Yeah.
of you accomplishing, because you don't want the connection to lose, or you can't do nothing and it freezes.
Yeah.
But that was fun. I'm trying to think of another one other than, cause I remember Mega Man 3. I can't remember if I.
See, I couldn't get into those Mega Man
Because
games.
then you get to beat the different robots, get their some character trait or whatever, and go on to the next one. And I'm trying to think if I actually got one of them was Dr. Wily. If I got him knocked out. I'm trying to think I did, but I can't remember. It's been a long time with thinking about those earlier systems in doing so.